Yo, Russell Wilson just got released by the Denver Broncos. So I don't think that people fully understand the implications of this, right? So there's a few. First of all, this is the biggest dead money cap hit in NFL history. It's not even close. And by dead money, so everybody understands, the NFL salary cap, it's a certain amount of money that every team can spend on its roster. And for next year, the cap is $255 million. Then there's an additional 70 some million dollars that they spend on player health and safety, former players, all that kind of stuff, for a total league of $10.5 billion. Okay. So Russell Wilson gets released and he has an $85 million cap hit. And people are like, oh, he sucks, he's this, he's that. So let's take a look at the numbers and see what's the truth. Because Russell Wilson was 19th in passing yards last year with 19th in passing yards in 15 games. So if you adjust that up for playing 17 games, probably finishes around 14th, 15th in passing yards with one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. It's not even close. So, but then when you look at his stats, Russell Wilson finished with completing 66% of his passes for over 3,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. Let's look at the other quarterbacks who threw more interceptions than Russell Wilson and less touchdowns. So obviously you had Sam Howell. Josh Allen threw 29 touchdowns, so 3 more than Russell Wilson. But he also had 18 interceptions to only 8. While we praise Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, 23 touchdowns, 15 picks. Patrick Mahomes, 27 touchdowns, 14 picks. Trevor Lawrence, 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Okay, so this whole point is that, and then he had the 6th highest rating in the entire NFL. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure that that's right, because I don't want to lie to y'all. 8th highest rating in the NFL last year. So people will tell you, oh, Russell Wilson sucks. Nah, there's nothing about Russell Wilson that actually sucks. The Broncos and Sean Payton wanted to move on in a different direction. I don't blame the dude. This is 100% the right thing for both of these parties. But let's get back to that $85 million cap hit. This is insanity. So here are the NFL biggest cap hits of all time for their dead money. You have Antonio Brown when he got released by the Steelers prior to the 2019 season. $21.1 million. That was like, ooh, goddamn, like, that's crazy. Then you had Brandon Cooks in 2018, $21.8 million. So that was a season prior. Jared Goff, when they traded him to the Detroit Lions, $22.2 million cap hit. Huge cap hit. DeAndre Hopkins in 2020, $22.6 million. So there's a common theme. 20 million, it's a big hit to, especially at that point in time, you're dealing with like 10 to 15% of the NFL salary cap. So those are big numbers. Julio Jones in 2022 with the Falcons, they took a $23.25 million cap hit, which is a lot. And then he ended up going over to Tennessee, but all of that. Now, Russell Wilson makes this list twice, because when he got traded from the Seattle Seahawks to the Denver Broncos, that was a $26 million cap hit. And everybody's like, ooh, damn. But in that case, the team was able to trim off $11 million off of their 2022 payroll. So, okay, that makes a little bit of sense there. And, that relationship was broken. Now, here is where stuff got real big. You had Carson Wentz when he left the Eagles in June of 2019. And there was a signing bonus to be paid. But his dead money cap hit was $33.8 million, which was everybody. It was on television. It was on ESPN, on Fox, on everywhere else. Everybody was like, God damn, like what the hell is this going on? And then you had Aaron Rodgers. When Aaron Rodgers got traded from the Green Bay Packers to the New York Jets, his situation was he was due a $50 million payment and they didn't want to pay it. So, but all of his dead cap hit happened in 2023. Like the Packers took it all at one time because you do have an option. And we'll get to what they did with Russell Wilson. And so that accounted for 18% of the Packers salary cap for last year. And he will have a $15 million cap hit. Well, he had a $15 million cap hit for the Jets for last year. So then the second biggest was Matt Ryan, $40.5 million for him to get out of the Falcons. I mean, that was insane because his contract got restructured so many times over the last 3 years, including 2 weeks before his trade to the Colts. Now, because nothing resembled that 5-year, $150 million deal that he originally signed. So now you got Russell Wilson, who is the number one biggest cap hit of all time at $85 million. So the Broncos had really 3 options, but none of them were really all that great. So they obviously could have kept Russell Wilson, which that wasn't gonna happen because him and Sean Payton are too far apart. And the second thing that they could have done when they could have traded Russell Wilson. And if you're a team who wanted Russell Wilson, then why the hell would you trade for him? Why would you trade for him when you can get him and scratch it up, tear up the contract because he's been released? So that wouldn't make any sense. So nobody would trade for him because he gets to choose where he wants to go. And the number one thing that they could have done is what they did, release Russell Wilson. And that gave them 2 options. They could either take an $85 million cap hit all at once, which would be, how much is that on $255 million? That's 33% of the salary cap for one man that's not on their team. So what they did is they're designating Russell Wilson as a post-June 1 cap release. So that means that they get to break up that cap hit into 2 seasons. So this year they are going to take a $35 million cap hit, which would put him behind Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers. So that would put him 3rd all time in biggest cap hits and just slightly above what Carson Wentz was. And then next year, he has a $50 million cap hit to make $85 million, which would then put him number 1. So Russell Wilson has the biggest, if you take them in individual years, Russell Wilson has the biggest cap hit of all time at $50 million because they're going to break it up over 2 years. Then you got Matt Ryan at 40, Aaron Rodgers at 40, and then Russell Wilson at $35 million for the biggest cap hits of all time. Then you got Carson Wentz, and then you got Russell Wilson again. Man, this dude is out here. But the thing is, that doesn't mean that he gets paid that money. So let's go back a second before we get out of here. The Broncos wanted Russell Wilson to to push back his injury guarantee. And people were like, what's wrong with that? Okay, well, what's wrong with that is that meant that, and they threatened to bench him. That means that the benching of Russell Wilson had nothing to do with this money. So Russell Wilson, if they wanted him to push back his injury guarantee, which meant that if Russell Wilson got hurt last season and, broke his leg, tore his ACL, had a major injury and couldn't play next season either, the Broncos would have owed him $0. Do you realize how insane that is? Not a chance. That's why he didn't take it, and that's why the Broncos benched him. So I have summed this whole thing up for you guys about this whole $85 million cap hit and how unprecedented that this is. And if it were me, I would have thrown Sean Payton in the trash before I threw Russell Wilson in the trash. Because you know what? Despite what all the reports and all the people are talking about, Russell Wilson is not a bad quarterback. He threw for 26 touchdowns, 8 picks last year. That was fantastic work. Like, especially with a Broncos team with a bad offensive line. Are you kidding me? That's the story. Share it with a friend. Make sure you tune in to the Unafraid Show.